Hi, Lenny. How are you? It's good to see you today. I'm
Thanks,
so excited to
Eric.
have this conversation with you today.
Yeah, me too. Looking forward to it.
Let's do a little bit of an introduction. Like, tell me a little bit about yourself, and tell me a little bit about the Kimolian Academy and what we're doing today.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I am a computer science engineer, which led me to have a long career in product. Very curious about using technology to solve problems, but kind of sitting in that wonderful intersection, of the art of possible, but curious about humans and how they're using what we're building. So for me, that was drove my career. And obviously worked in different parts of the world, built teams across the world, I would say, predominantly in the US, Europe, and the Middle East, and had the honor to, see people just flourish in the product role. And that's been, what gave inspiration as well to Kimolian Academy. You can imagine being a computer science engineer in the early 90s. There were not many women around, still aren't. And it became passion for me to see more women stepping into this role, because as you understand, product is a strategy role, right? It is how we use the money, how we use the resources, how we use these brilliant engineers, right? And how we're deploying them. And Kimolian Academy became the place and space and time for me to give back to more women the opportunity to step into product or pursue their own tech startup.
Yeah, it's a wonderful story, and you know what I love about product and people that end up in the product role is every time you talk to somebody and every time you meet a new product person, their story and their journey is always unique and different. There's no prescriptive path, but there are some frameworks and there are some techniques that make the job more impactful. Just a bit about me. My name is Erik Schwartz. I'm the Chief AI Officer at Tricon Infotech. Tricon is a product strategy and product development company. Our teams are based in Bangalore. I'm in the UK. American by background, but based in the UK now. And my background, it's similar. It's funny how we both ended up in product.
Mm.
My background was electrical engineering. And again, coming into the workforce in the early 90s when the internet just arrived, we didn't, it was hard to put your finger on what it was and what the impact was. But there was the sense that this web browser, this HTML, it was so simple but so powerful at the same time. Was really going to change the world. And so where my journey was through the lens of information retrieval. So I spent a lot of time building digital libraries, working for search engine companies, and then spent the last 15 years working for large corporates, running what we call a knowledge discovery platform, or more of a centralized shared service that runs a search engine and recommendation systems and has data that powers customer facing and customer engaging applications. So I did that for Comcast and I did that for Elsevier, which is what brought me to London. Now I'm with Tricon. So that brings us up to today. And here we are talking about AI, and we're talking in 2025 about the impact of agents. So you gave us a little bit of introduction of Chameleon Academy, and we were excited to welcome this latest cohort that's graduating
Mm.
later today into the world of product.
Yeah, so this is our cohort that we've run with the support of the Digital Skills Academy under the Capital City College Group from the Mayor of London. And their focus is, tech um, and innovation and entrepreneurship. So they're going to showcase how you go from zero to one, like they're giving an opportunity space, and you go through all the journey of conducting your interviews, your market research, understanding opportunities, ideating as a team, doing your early stage ideation as a story map, your wireframes, getting early feedback, and then they'll showcase, their little prototype that they've built. Most of them actually using lovable.dev, because that's the tool that everybody liked the most. But what's interesting as well is our next cohort, which hopefully will be starting in Q1 of 2025, where we're going to focus now our efforts in upskilling women, not only in the role of product, and the product ways of thinking and the product ways of working, but also leveraging AI agents to support small and medium sized businesses in the UK to streamline and optimize, the key parts of their business. May that be for efficiency, or may that be for better outreach to their customers, or may that be for better sales processes. So what we want to do with this new cohort is really get women to understand how to go from, how do you work, who is involved, how does this process work, where are the biggest areas and opportunities for making a change, to redesigning it, but tapping into the capabilities of AI agents in doing that, and then obviously creating value for those small businesses to reap the benefits, of what we're going to build. And in that, we're going to be partnering with Tricon, and Erik, you will be supporting us as well as one of our lead mentors, because it is very important to expose these women in our community to the um, actual build of a solution using AI agents, and also this forward thinking view, right, of the capabilities that are out there. And with that, I'd like you to share, how you feel about it, and obviously what you're bringing into this.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm thrilled to partner with you and the Chameleon Academy on helping people understand how to think about agents, and how to incorporate them into workflows and solutions that we're going to put out in the marketplace. Tricon's going to bring some of our skills, some of our capabilities to the table, and create a safe space where people can build it, and then find a way. We'll take that way to deploy it and get it out there and show how we have these different agents that interact with each other, these different AI elements that can come together, that can work together as different people, different members of the team, different personas on the group, or even different roles within a solution. And it's going to be fascinating to see how we can tailor those agents, how we carve those agents, how we pass information back and forth between those agents, and how we get them to think and act together as a cohesive group. So there's going to be a lot of education, a lot of learning, and I think it's going to be mutually beneficial, because not only will we help show how the technology works, but we'll also get a really good understanding of what the problem spaces are that these women are trying to solve. And I think that's always the most exciting bit for me, is as we go through a mentorship and we think about education, it's what is that problem that they're holding on to, that they really want to solve, that they're obsessing about, and how do we solve it with the various technologies. So thrilled to partner with you, and thrilled to get to meet these exciting new experiences, new professionals, and learn about the new experiences that we'll take on together.
Yeah. So I think, on our press release after the graduation today, we will be also sharing this exciting news for, you know, women in London who want to be part of this, and also businesses in London who would like to be part of the program and benefit, from the solutions we will bring to life. And, I don't think there could be better timing, to be honest, for doing something like this. And I think finally it's the point you made, that humans remain relevant, because it is humans who will understand other humans who were doing the jobs, who will understand why the jobs were done the way they were, how people did interact, including within the team, but also more importantly with your users and partners, and then really creatively collaborate with Tricon and with all of those tools that we have in our disposition today, right? To bring something that hopefully will deliver much better results.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see these things come together. And it's very much an emerging field. So we're going to learn a lot together, and we're also going to have a great time exploring these agents and seeing how they solve our problems for us. I'm thrilled.
Absolutely. And
Well, thanks for the partnership.
yeah, and what more not to expect, right? A graduation where a wonderful group of women are actually standing up and sharing, what they've done. That is always the best part of the program.
It's always the best part. It's always the best part to see what I learned, where I started, what I didn't think I could do, to where I got to at the end, and look at what I did. Look at what I was able to
Yeah,
accomplish.
yeah. I'm sure you'll be very proud to see that, Erik.
I can't wait. Super excited. Product. Well, tell me in your words, Eleni, how do you see the impact of AI in this product role, and how is this changing the advice that you give to people that are coming out of your academy, as they think about these tools that they can use?
Yeah, I mean, the most incredible thing in the work I've done in the past 2 years is actually, Erik, seeing it through the lens of people that are entering into this role, or they're pursuing their own tech startup idea. And it is fascinating to think that in this graduation we're having today, what you're going to see is no comparison to previous graduations, not for the merits of the people and the work they did, but the art of what is possible when they have these tools in their hands. To give you concrete examples, um, building wireframes, right? Or creating early stage prototypes, or bringing your idea to life, that you could do with certain tools that we are all aware a year and a half ago. And the process of doing exactly the same thing is changed dramatically, because the focus now is more on conveying your strategic thinking, your innovative idea, the what, the why, the for who, right? And what's different, rather than the minutia, which I personally never liked, right? Of getting it to come to life. Plus, the fascinating part is how these tools and the way we interact with them might actually take what you're thinking and come up with different perspectives, right? That are broadening, are stretching, that solution space, or are giving, um, threads that effectively we gather when we work in a team. So the impact that I've seen through these women I've been working with in the past 2 years, very concretely, is that if you use it in the right way, it's as if you have a team of other people around you when you're bouncing off ideas, right? And you might see what you don't see, your own blind spots, or you might actually focus on what really matters and try to communicate that or visualize it or prototype it to such an extent that you can get valuable feedback from real users, right, from your buyers, rather than losing, as you know, a lot of time or needing other people, right, experts, engineers, product designers, right, to actually help you bring it to life. And so what you're going to see today is women that have built early stage prototypes using lovable.dev, who did prototyping using UI Wizard, who did qualitative data synthesis from discovery interviews using tools that summarize and synthesize the qualitative feedback across a very, large pool of interviewees, and also women that are pursuing their own startup idea and they've built on their own single-handedly, right, their early stage MVP. And that's the first time in my whole career, I'll be very honest, that I see that in the span of 2 hours.
It's wonderful, and I think, one of the things that we learn, spending time in product is that the more you can iterate, the more you can put something in front of a customer, the better your idea becomes. Because you have an idea, you have a hypothesis, you have a theory about how something works, but until you actually put it in front of a user and get them to interact with it, and then see how they click or point or enter data, I didn't expect you to interact with it that way. And so the faster you can iterate, the more cycles that you can do, the better your product and the better your idea is. And just to add to all the things that you said, you and I have been building products in the corporate space for quite some time now. And what was the challenge? The challenge always was, right? We needed to take our engineering teams and we needed to
Mm.
interrupt delivery, right? We need to interrupt sprint work. We needed to prioritize this discovery work as sprint work to go out and test these ideas. And I think this is incredibly powerful that we can now say, as a product manager, I have the tools and the equipment to ideate this on my own, iterate on this on my own, flush out an idea, put it in front of real users, and then say, okay, now my engineering team, we can now take this and then scale it up. And we can now work with true engineers to really build a robust, secure system. But that learning that has to happen, we don't have to waste their time with that.
Yeah, I mean, it is exactly as you said. I mean, thinking of myself, right? I always used to, believe it or not, I don't have my remarkable with me to design the wireframes. Well, guess what? Pen and paper, which is the most engaging way for our brain, as you know, to prototype new concepts, right? It's when we write. That for me became remarkable. And I used to just send them, all the wireframes or the user story maps, all the flows that I wanted to bring to life at the early stage of new features or new product concepts. And now you're seeing these women, right, being able to do these things and move and accelerate the stages that you have to go through, and they do it on their own. They don't need to send it to a designer, right, to sit down on Figma and bring at least an early iteration of Balsamic or whatever you might be using. They actually can sit on their own and do it. And the other thing that struck me is the power of the team, because that whole idea of using each other's perspective and being challenged and asking the right questions and be seeing other possibilities. I think that what happened in this cohort is they had more time to do the quality conversation between them, and a lot of the other parts of the work were just easier to accomplish, so that they didn't have to spend time going through the wireframes or the the building out of that early stage prototype that we could show to somebody like you, Erik, and see how you interact with it. But instead they could focus on, okay, how else might we be doing it? What capabilities are out there that can enable this to work in a way that's very immersive, that's very subtle? Um, and so that direction of our thinking and our energy, individually and as a collective, in these more higher value questions is where I see the greater opportunity. We also had a partnership with a company called Useberry, and I'm sure you've heard of usertesting.com. I mean, there's a cluster of tools we use, right, to do unmoderated testing, right, of our early stage prototypes. And that's another incredible thing. You just plug your early stage prototype that you've done on UI Wizard, or even an early version of a workable prototype you've done using Lovable, for example, and you actually get people responding with feedback. And that will take you probably, I don't know, a quarter of the time that it would have normally taken you to do that. I cannot tell you that I have the exact comparison, but just by observing the group of women working on their case study, it's much shorter.
Yeah. 75% of your time recovered. And as we
Okay.
know, right? And we'll use that as a ballpark number. I mean, it's good that we'll prove that out, right? As we measure things over time. But that's probably going to grow even. Even if you get half your time back, be able to take something from weeks down to days is incredible because then you get that feedback time. So what is it about agents and AI agents that's getting you and the cohort excited?
I mean, obviously, the first thing is observing these women use these tools, right? So they are, let's say, my first kind of case study of they are the user. And obviously, how they've changed the way they approach the work and where they're focusing their time is a great indicator of the potential it has, even when you are in the product role. But as an extension of that, I was actually earlier in the week in the University of Suffolk, and I did a workshop for small business owners or solopreneurs, like individuals, who might be doing coaching, who might be running a service business, who might be doing something around content, or even having a retail store, right? And what I realized is that very obvious tools we are using, they are not aware of. And when you show them these tools, honestly, if you could be in the room and see their reaction, it was incredible. It was as if they seen, a ghost. I don't know if that's the greatest example, but it was honestly as if they'd seen a ghost. I showed them, for example, Notebook LM, right? And said, okay, instead of listening to a 2-hour video, you might as well use Notebook LM, right? And this is how you might interrogate information in a very large PDF document or some set of things you want to read. I showed them ways they can build a presentation or take notes and summarize and convert it into action points, like very, very simple and practical things, right? That they can bring to their day to day. And it was the reaction in their face and this, the response they said, this will save me so much time. And you know what they said as we finished the workshop? I feel I now have a team. That was what they said. Right. So
Yeah.
this is taking it down from I'm a product person, right? So I need to see the personas and how these tools and these capabilities can change their day to day, but also can change, their potential. So if we take the personas of the product person that I'm training or the people that I've already done some work with who perform these jobs, right? Run these small businesses. Even at this scale, you can see, the potential and you can see their reaction and what becomes possible for them.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think that's one of the biggest challenges for the entrepreneur or that solopreneur is that feeling that you're by yourself. Who do you have to bounce ideas off of? Who do you have? You don't have that team to sit around the water cooler and have a conversation and whiteboard a solution together. But now with AI and with AI agents, you've got all those personas are right there for you. You've got the critical thinker, you got the deep analysis person, you've got the creative artist, right? And you can juxtapose these characters against each other and get them to work and collaborate on your concept and refine your concept for you, right?
Absolutely. And so when you see that, right, and you see the reaction of people saying, I feel like I have now have a team and I can see how my time can be freed. And we have to juggle so many things. Our memory is not always strong, right? So how do we stay organized, stay up to date, and stay on top of all the things we need to be doing? That's where I think this is a transformative technology. And there's lots of conversations we had around what it means about humanity, and how this whole thing could be used in ways that's not working for us, but it's working against us. And I think we have to make the point of AI is the great equalizer. Because if you think about it, right, for all of the participants in my small workshop, if they actually do what they said they're going to do, which is use some of these things next week and the week after, they'll be in a position to compete differently and deliver higher service to their customers, right? And show up at their greatest potential, which means that you regain time, you regain focus, right? You regain clarity. So could it be that us sharing this knowledge, sharing the tools, right? Making it practical, actionable, relatable, bringing it down to life for these people that have to show up, right? And run these small businesses or deliver, their own services, be the great equalizer.
It's the team of one can suddenly compete with a team of 10, and the team of 10 can suddenly compete with a team of 100. So we can make all of ourselves 10x engineers or 10x product folks or 10x creators or 10x entrepreneurs. And one of the things, I mean, you bring up the notion of tools, and one of the things that I hear from lots of executives and lots of people that are getting into AI is, gosh, Erik, there's so many tools out there. How do you keep up? And how do you and so what I like to tell them is, listen, there's lots of tools, and everything's moving at a very, very fast pace right now. But the key thing to do right now is to really find a couple of tools that you like, that really work for you, and then just use them, right? And just start to use them, and then and things will evolve. New tools will come along, but don't feel. I think the biggest thing to tell people is, don't feel that you've got to move and switch to new tools all the time. Find your comfort zone, find your sweet spot, and work within those tools.
Yeah, and I think, as you said earlier, where Kimolian Academy is headed and why agents and why disseminating all the community knowledge around tools is precisely that. So what I've seen is women that I have trained who have gone in and become experts on Lovable, right? On UI Wizard, or, notably .ai, Dovetail, or qualitative data analysis and synthesis, right? On prototyping. Everybody seems to have a thread of interest or expertise, people that are very curious and very interested in research and discovery, right? Competitive analysis and how they use those cluster of tools, right? To understand data and trends. And so the whole concept here is, how can we equip more women in the context of what we're doing at Kimolian Academy, right? To then disseminate that knowledge in a very practical and systematic way to the solopreneurs, small business owners, but also take another step, which is go to small businesses and really help them, right? Rewire or re-engineer workflows that are holding them back. And that's, as you understand, more relevant as we see a business size grow. Because the reality is you can't get lost. There's a lot of information conveyed in ways that's not relatable. And frankly speaking, why would you care if you are a leadership coach, or why should you care if you have an online shop, or you're delivering marketing service? You don't need to be reading things in the way that you and I might be reading them. And if you're a small business owner, right, what you want to see is, how might I actually refocus my team? How can I not drag them and pull them down with all the minutiae, right? And elevate them so they can do the work that drives the business forward. And that's where we want to step in, right? So creating a community of learning and sharing that really centers around you and your role and your day to day, and then goes to the small businesses that actually need this additional, more customized approach to their workflow. And then we can deploy, the right type of solution.
Right, right. And I think that's a really key element, especially when you think about AI adoption. And you think about tool adoption, AI adoption, is that it's AI is not necessarily going to fit in every spot in the business, but when you have an existing business, when you have existing workflows, the thing that I always like to tell my customers and my clients is, look for those places in the business where there's a lot of manual work. It's very repetitive, or it's even highly brittle, right? It's fragile. It can break, or requires a lot of focus or attention. Those are great places to optimize and put AI tools inside of your existing workflows. But I think this is the big thing. I think this is the opportunity we'll see over the next couple of years. Is this also gives us an opportunity not to just replace the existing workflows where we have problem or friction areas, but really to reinvent how we solve problems by building these tools as fundamental building blocks.
And I think that's for me what makes it really exciting, Eric. I think that's the other area where I get very excited about the possibilities here because I've been in this industry for 25 years or more and also a lot in SaaS and B2B applications. And, we designed them a certain way, right? If you look at how all of these different applications were built and how they talk to each other, and I think the word integration is something that everybody knows, even salespeople, they say, oh, this CRM is not integrated with this, so it doesn't work. It's very interesting, right? When you talk to all these different personas, right? How they see technology as a blocker because this system doesn't talk to that system, right? Or this doesn't send it there. And so when you take a step back and see where are we going to be in 5 or 10 years and how all of these things we've actually built, right? Both you and me and many other people in our space have been part of building these applications the way we did. The redesigning and rethinking is where things get very exciting.
Yeah. And in the space, you hear a lot of, we've been talking about SaaS and software as a service for, the better part of a decade now. And now you're starting to hear leaders from Google and Microsoft coming and saying SaaS is dead. And there's a really interesting point, right? Because, I think there's two things we got to separate when we talk about this. One is, right, revenue. So we'll continue to have recurring revenue, right? That these business models will end up being probably subscription, maybe token based, right, in terms of how people engage with these systems. But but the key thing is that instead of it being one size fits all, where you have to adapt your business to meet a workflow that's defined inside of a product, these AI tools then adapt themselves to your business and adapt
Mm,
themselves to what's optimal for you to achieve what you need to, the goals that you need to achieve. So it's thinking about outcomes versus process, removing the
absolutely.
integration step, right? Oh, does this one have an API? How do I talk to this one? How do I move data? Like all that becomes really becomes transitionary. It goes away, and we've now got AI that can sort of sit there in between and provide that interface that can connect these things together to allow conversations to flow.
Yeah, and I really like that whole concept of a system that lends with you and through you, right? Because the reality is the human has to remain in the loop, right? But how we take that feedback and how we fit it back into exactly tuning and optimizing our way of working. And the reality is you take all these SaaS solutions, right, for marketing or for sales, right, for running surveys, for working with qualitative data, all sorts of things that you put together. And in reality, you only use a very small section of those things. And to get them to work in the way you want, again, that never quite happens. And also the way you use it and the way your team actually experiences these things and what feedback they give also goes to waste. So if you think about it, right, it's not just for me what makes this exciting, strangely, it's not the efficiency, the cost, and the operational side. What makes it very interesting is that you're actually creating a living organism that actually taps into your most important asset as a business, which is you, your team, the way they work, right? And one part is even repetitive tasks, as you know, a lot of operational efficiency and potential creativity, right? And improvement hides in there. And on the other side, there are even more creative tasks, right? Like the things we do in product, for example, or other parts of the business, like sales, is a creative process because it's a lot about understanding humans,
Yeah,
right?
it's about problem solving, right? It's
Yeah,
about solving. It's like let me understand the problem and let me help you understand why the solution that we have helps solve your problem. But but typical SaaS products or even desktop products that we have around, they've just got so many features, and you used to spend so much time trying to figure out what does this button do, what does this tab do,
exactly.
why do I need all these? Well, all that can go away, right?
Exactly.
All we can now, the interface becomes just the things that I need at the time that I need them to engage and solve my problem.
I had a conversation with a lady who it was fascinating because she's a sales manager for 20 plus years. And you won't believe it, but she came to my house for a friendly family visit, and we ended up talking about all of the things I'm doing. And it's incredible how she totally got it, that every touch point she has with her customers, may that be a meeting, right, a conversation, leaving herself a voice note, recording an email, she totally gets it, that all of these touch points come together, right, to actually profile Erik's unique situations, and other people like Erik. And that is somebody who has been selling all sorts of types of products, right? I mean, higher ticket price products for 20 years, saying, you know what, actually, all these things would help me sell better by truly investing my time in understanding Erik, versus typing in the CRM that nobody uses, everybody hates, in a text form, right? Or trying to fill in, a lead generation form somewhere else. And the essence of your job, right? Which is, do I really understand people like Erik? And where else can I find people like Erik? So then we started talking about, okay, if I know Erik is one of my ideal buyers, where else do I find people like Erik? Where do they hang out? What do they commonly do? How many are there, right? What's their spending capacity? What else have they been buying? So then it became very interesting how you use these tools, right, to ask those questions, to build your strategy, right, of building your pipeline, for adjusting your messaging, and really showing up in every conversation, right? Truly invested in Erik.
And it's really about building that human connection. I think these tools allow us to get all of that sort of labor out off to the side, so we can really build those connections. We can find where you and I can have that conversation, and we can sit down and say, "Oh, this is the point that we need to collaborate on. This is the problem that we need to go solve on." You think about the history of how these tools have evolved. Going back in time where someone would write something down themselves, they'd write by paper, or an executive might record something, and someone would have to transcribe the recording and type it out, or someone would have a portable recorder that they would walk with them. I remember my dad back in the 70s or 80s would have a portable little micro cassette, and he used to make all these recordings and all these ideas, and he would play them back and listen to himself. But now I hear, the use cases that we hear people doing is, now I can take my phone and I can open up something like ChatGPT, and I can talk to it as I'm on my way to work, or I'm commuting, or I'm taking a walk in the morning to get my day started. I can say, I have an idea about this, and I have an idea about that, and I want to talk to Eleni about this, and here's an important problem that I want to solve, and here's how I see these two pieces coming together. And they can be sort of random and non sequitous points that kind of come as they flow out of your mind. And then you go back to ChatGPT and say, "Hey, ChatGPT, can you take all those things and synthesize those thoughts into a cohesive plan for me?" And so, you get to sit down and go back and revisit it, and suddenly you've got this summary, this report that says, "Here's all your ideas, and here's how this can all stick together in a cohesive way." And so suddenly, this acceleration of tools and things that we can do with the devices in our pockets become incredibly powerful.
Yeah, I think, interestingly, what she said at the end of the conversation was that, for the first time, I can see how technology can help me focus more on people versus losing time trying to stay on top of things, or feeling obliged I have to do it and it delivers nothing. And,
Right.
of course, this is one interview of one sales manager. But I'm sure, we all know, right, that if we actually go into these businesses and talk to these people that do the job, it's very likely for many of them, it's a hindrance,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
rather than an accelerator.
It's about
And
moving these things out of the way so I can get back to what I need to do, which is about building that connection, establishing that trust, reestablishing a more human connection. So how do we think the future of work is going to evolve? How do we think the job place is going to evolve? What are jobs going to look like in a few years as we start to adopt these technologies?
I guess there's lots being said and written on this topic, Erik, right? And it's something that certainly, neither you nor I think, can predict individually, right? This is, of course, a collective effort of so many of us and thought leaders to see forward. But for me, the best way to, you know, gauge this, right, is actually seeing it happen. And that's where I think it is the fascinating part. It is changing rapidly, probably at a rate that I never experienced in my lifetime. And there's two ways I can see people reacting to this, right? The one is what I call, you ride the wave, but you do it very intentionally. which means you don't suspend your critical brain. You don't stop being creative. You don't stop seeing patterns, right? And connections. You don't stop challenging, your ability to critique. On the opposite, you actually try to say, okay, if I was doing that much, how might I be using all these things to do more of that? And the other possibility is that all of these things get suspended, right? Which is not a good outcome, because if we talk about even the level of using those tools to automate repetitive tasks, what are we seeking to achieve, right? Is to free up time, as you said, for the human skills of I'm conducting an interview, or I'm having a sales conversation, or I'm doing a customer support call, or I'm managing an account, right? Or I'm leading a project. How might I use my human skills, right, more intentionally, freeing up time and mental capacity, right? And energy to do a better job. So my thesis is that we want these things to shape the world of work by elevating our ability to tap into our human skills, our consciousness, right? And more importantly, our creative and critical brain.
So jobs aren't going away.
No,
Jobs are evolving.
exactly. And it could be an
We're not being
opportunity.
replaced by AI. We're being augmented by AI.
I think that's the way I'd like to approach it, Erik. That's the way I'm trying to share what I do. That's what I want to inspire the people I work with, that we can actually ride the wave, right? We are in control. These are tools we are using, right? And augmentation means we're better, more critical, more creative, more expansive in our thinking. We collaborate better with each other. This is very important. We lead better our teams. We communicate better. And I've seen, for example, people I've worked with who has dyslexia, right? These things help, right? We had, of course, Grammarly or other tools, but now these things are getting embedded in so many different ways. We have language barriers, right? Or um, barriers of pronunciation of words or accent, where all of these things, believe it or not, I've seen it in this piece of work I do. These things are helping people perform better, feel more confident.
Yeah. You talked a little bit about uploading a tool into Notebook LM. I think one of the things that we speak, especially as we focus with customers that are in education space or in the ed tech and trying to come up with new ways, you look at our education system and communication, right? It's there isn't, again, back to the same thing we're talking about with SaaS. The way education is delivered today to children and to learners at any stage of your learning journey is we create a curriculum and we say this is what the material is, and you're forced to learn that the way it's presented to you. I think with these tools, we now have an opportunity to be able to adopt the content and the material, right? Not only to help you articulate yourself better, but also to consume better. Sometimes people, I have a colleague that I work with that I said, listen, we'll set up a recording and we'll play it. And you can watch it back. He's like, I don't do great with watching recordings. I can't sit still and watch the recordings. I need to be able to sit there and ask questions, right? Because we all have different learning styles. We all have different ways that we bring information in. Some people are very visual, some people are very auditory, some people need that combination of both. Taking a conversation or taking a conference call and dropping it into Notebook LM and playing it back as a podcast to see what are the key highlights that you need to focus, and hearing a different perspective on that conversation or that conference call can really sort of illuminate and reinforce those ideas and find new ways to learn.
By the
Meanwhile,
way,
while the human is still in the loop, right? They're not being pulled out of the situation. They're very much immersed in exactly that, if not even more so than they would be without these tools.
yeah, actually, you won't believe it. It was one of the feedback points in my workshop that, for some people, summarizing in text because of their, style, learning style, wouldn't work. So they said, wow, I love it that it has the podcast. Because for me, summarizing in a conversation that's also not like repetitive or narrated, but has that fluidity and dialogue is the ideal way to hear to our and this is real feedback, right? Running a workshop with people from all different backgrounds. So you're right, how might we use these things to remove barriers as well when we think of our own uniqueness as human beings, right? And that's just a holistic way of acknowledging that every one of us has a different way of consuming information, processing information, right? And how much you use these tools to be, to feel it's effortless, right? Or joyful, right? Or have a sense of ease versus like feeling, oh, now I have to listen to this 1 hour YouTube video and I just can't make the time.
Yeah, yeah. So we've gone across the gamut from new tools that can help us take our ideas and make them more engaging, to new tools that can help us convey our thoughts and our words, to new tools to help us internalize others and communicate and elaborate. I mean, it's just, we're going to turn the word work into play. Right? So, so that it's a joke, a little bit of a play on words, no pun intended, but let's make it fun. Let's make it enjoyable. Let's find the things that really
Hmm.
give us energy and make it and help us get creative versus the things that really drain us and pull those things away from us.
Yeah, I can certainly tell you that I'm a very good example of hating creating presentations, obviously, for the longest part of my whole life, not career, to using Miro, as you know, and the Miro feature for creating presentations, to then uncovering a tool, right, which I'm sure you're aware of. And the reality, why did that make a huge difference? Because I don't want to spend time in the minutiae. I don't care about, using these little things that you move around and aligning, For me, it's about the concept. It's about the storyline. It's about the emotions. It's about what really will catch people, in every slide. What are the concepts that I want them to pay attention? And now I've become a prolific creator of presentations to the point that people like ask me in that workshop, like, how long did it take you to create it? I said maybe an hour, and 99% of that hour, what did I do? I focused on what I really wanted to convey. How clear and relatable am I going to make it? The simplicity, the clarity, and the engagement, and is it relatable? If I hadn't had that tool and the process that I use, it would have taken me much longer. And to be fairly honest, Erik, part of the conversation with the tool on creating this presentation was opening up avenues on how to visualize it, from the images or the icons, or potentially even the structure in the slide that I would not myself on my own, right, could have conceived. Now, there was a woman in the workshop says, well, you didn't create it because it
But
was
but
co-created.
but didn't you?
Well, I mean, and I said, this is a fair point, right? Did I create it? And I said, what's the test here, right? If I wasn't behind the driving wheel, if I didn't have that story to tell, would that have come to life? No.
That's right.
But if I did it with PowerPoint and the way I used to do it maybe 2 years ago, hands down, it wouldn't have looked the same. Plus, I wouldn't have done it because I just hated doing it.
Well, one of my favorite. I love that hack. I mean, it's focusing because at the end of the day, PowerPoint was a very simple tool that allowed us to convey a story. Right? It was very lightweight. I could put a couple words on a slide, and I could convey a story. And one of my favorite things to do is get that narrative down, and then go into a tool like Midjourney, or I've been even using the Grok tool that's part of X, part of Twitter, to create images, and I'll create a very visual image with a few words on it, right? That then becomes my keynote. And so people focus on the words, people focus on the images, people focus on the pictures, and then my words become an overlay of what I want, the story that I want to tell, and I can convey it through pictures and words without having to build these detailed PowerPoints and charts and things like that. Now, there's some people that are wonderful at that. Again, I'm in the same as you. It was never my strong point. I always used to dread it, right? But it's a great way to sort of think about how do I get that story out there with images in a way that can convey it, and I can get sort of all that work out of the way so I can get to the point of actually doing the storytelling.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, to bring back to the conversation, why are agents and why at Kimolian Academy and why now? I think it's precisely the point we're making, right? That this is the time to ride this wave. And, when a big wave comes, you don't want to be under the wave. You want to be riding the wave. And
Want
that's
to
what
be
I
on
keep, yeah, that's
right?
what I keep telling to, the people I work with, participants of Kimolian Academy, that we have to be the people that ride the wave and we need to show the way how to do it, right?
Yeah,
It's not
exactly.
about shying away. It is not also about, as I said, suspending our consciousness or suspending our critical thinker or a creative mind. It is about truly figuring out how we will be part of this in ways that we create things that make sense, that help, the one person business compete as if they were 10 and feel like they have a team, the small business owner to remove the obstacles out of the way, right? And also for the women I work with, very honestly, Erik, is create pathways for them, right? And see them being part of this new era, right? Because this is also very important. We don't want this to be a way of leaving people behind.
And we're creating a community of people that can collaborate together and learn from each other and share ideas and share best practices. So we've got this cohort now that can come out and say, not only do I have these skills, not only do I have these tools, I also have all these friends that are doing these same things, that are going through the same experience that I'm going through right now, and we can learn from each other. And I can say, oh, you know what, I got stuck doing this, or I got stuck doing that, or I was able to solve this, or I was able to solve that. And those will become the narratives. Those will become, hey, look how I did it this way. Hey, I've got a hack for doing it this way. And those become the conversations that we have. It's wonderful.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's
And to
exciting
be fair,
time.
to bring it to life, we had a lady who's been building something and using Replit versus Lovable. And we had actually graduates and cohort participants running sessions where we do our own comparisons, like with hands-on examples. So, this is the other very important point, Erik, right? This is not once done and dusted. This is a mindset shift. This is a way we approach our day to day. This is how we approach our strategy for ourselves, for our business. And once you adjust that mindset, right, that's half of the game won.
Right. How many product people are out there saying, I can't release it yet because it's not perfect yet? Right. So don't let perfect get in the way of good enough to engage with people.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a big learning, isn't it? And
Such a big one. And that's the
yeah.
big mindset shift is get it out there, put it out there, engage, let people come and see it, find out and learn.
Yeah, and also that applies for us as individuals because we now are using Notebook LM or this tool for doing this job or this other Perplexity for doing research. So as everything evolves and as things, as you said, are changing in the ways that technology is stretching the boundaries, right? We have to really be able to challenge ourselves and integrate these new tools or new ways. So it's in both ways, and this has been always my belief. The way you grow a product is a reflection of how you grow yourself. Unless you know how to do the one, you can't do the other. And you can tell the people that can do both, right?
Right. Yeah, it's certainly a muscle we have to flex. Well, Eleni, this has been an amazing conversation. I'm super excited to share this with the world. Thanks so much. I think let's go through and at the end of this, we'll put a list together of all the tools we talk about with the links to the tools so that people can get access to them. Because I think part of not only talking about them and sharing the stories, but also saying where do we find them and how do we get access to them? What's free? What do we have to pay for? All those things are super helpful. So let's gather those around and we'll share that with the group and the cohort. And just congratulations to everyone that's made it through the graduation and best of luck with the next part of your journey.
Thank you so much, Erik. Thank you.